And so before, well, I guess without further ado, that's all the announcements that we have. I'm going to welcome Sister Alla Tafaghodi's presentation. And before that, let me give you guys a quick background on Sister Alla. So Sister Alla Tafaghodi has been active in finding ways to connect youth to Islam by creating opportunities for growth and learning. She is the education team lead in the RISE organization. She currently leads a book club with members across the United States and designs reading materials for the group. And she has focused her personal research on the various aspects of self-development. She intends to find ways to help people reconnect to their faith in a secular society as she makes this journey herself. So with that, Sister Alla, the stage is all yours.
I love the hijab, sister.
Thank you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. Inshallah, all your prayers and fasts have been accepted in this blessed month. It's a blessing to be here with you all tonight, and I look forward to having this talk. So inshallah, I'm not any scholar, but I hope that inshallah this discussion will provoke some contemplation and some thinking, especially in this month. And we walk away having made the decision to take a more active approach in our decisions in life, and we think more about it, and we find a focal point of focus in our life, inshallah. So tonight my topic is obedience, freedom, and dissociation from negativities. And when I first started to think about this topic, I was thinking, you know, for some people it might be a question, you know, why do I even need to talk about these things? You know, I have other problems in my life that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Why is this important in my life? And so the first thing that I want to start with is discussing why we even need to discuss this. And we need to first understand the problem to be convinced that a solution is even needed. And we need to be eager for going after that solution and look for it. And we won't do that unless we understand what the problem is. And this is something that, you know, we tend to separate spirituality, you know, from the rest of our lives. We tend to separate our faith from our career, our education, but really it's all one. And when we are not connected to our faith, we also see problems in other aspects of our life, which inshallah we will get into. So Imam Khomeini explains that the first step towards God is yaqda, which means wakefulness. We want to awaken, and we need to become aware. And the number one thing that I want to begin with is becoming aware of the society we live in and what this society is pulling us towards, and what we want to avoid and why we want to avoid it. So we live in a secular society that is constantly moving us away from God. This world is all about, you know, what I want, this instant gratification, doing things that make me feel good, avoiding things that give me the slightest bit of discomfort or sadness. We want to get rid of all those things, and we view pain as a negative thing. You know, we want to avoid that. We want to stay away from it. And people have come to associate value with things such as popularity and money, and that's what's become important in people's life. So the first issue with that, and I will discuss 4 issues with this mentality, is that you know, it's kind of the difference between freedom in a secular society and freedom in Islam. In a secular society, as I explained, like, freedom is all about doing what you want and actually enslaving yourself of your desires. But that is not what Islam says, and we want to understand that. And we also want to understand what is the issue with following our desires, and is that really freedom? Is that is doing whatever we want, whenever we want, is that actually freedom? So the number one issue with this is that when we become enslaved of our desires and we follow our desires, we start to create an identity based off of these external objects. And we identify ourselves with a certain, like if someone asks who we are, we say, you know, I've studied this, I have this much money, or like I have this career, or like I come from this family. And we have all these things and objects that we create our identity based off of. And there are two problems with that. One is that when you lose any of those temporary things, when any of those come in question, you feel absolutely like you go into a state of despair. Like you fall apart. It's so difficult for you to deal with a life that doesn't have those, because you've identified yourself as a person who has those things. And the second problem is that we also deal with an identity crisis when we lose one of those things. We think, oh, like, who am I now? Like, I used to be this person. I used to tell people I'm this person with this, this, and this. But who am I now? How do I explain who I am? So that is number one, so we base our identity off of external things when we follow our desires. The issue number two is that we lose control over ourselves and we become slaves of our nafs. And so the way that our desires and our nafs or ego, whatever you want to call it, the way it works is that it starts somewhere. And a lot of times it starts from somewhere that is not even regarding committing haram or not doing a wajib act. It starts from very simple things, like, for example, overeating or oversleeping. And, you know, in Islam, we're told to, you know, be careful of those things because it leads to us losing our willpower. And there's a reason for that, because once you give into it, once you lose control, one thing leads to the other, and then you find yourself committing haram and putting aside your wajibat, and you don't even realize it, you don't even know how you got there. But it makes sense. Or even you come across a situation, a sudden situation, you never expected yourself to commit a certain act, and suddenly you commit it and you're like, well, how did I do that? I don't understand how that happened. Well, it's because if all day you're following your desires, when you come across a test, do you think that you're going to act any differently than that? Because you didn't prepare yourself. You didn't practice anything. All you've been doing is following the desires. The desires are going to just pull you. They're going to keep pulling you into that direction. The third issue that we face is that we create certain negative feelings and emotions within ourselves, and we keep them there. When we live in this bubble where it's all about me and I am such a great person, and we think so highly of ourselves, if someone says something to us that we find the least bit offensive, we get angry, we get triggered. How dare they say that to me? How did they even come to say that? And we keep that inside of us. We build that anger, we build that all those negative emotions. Anything we face in life, we hold on to it inside. We carry guilt, we carry fear, we carry anxiety. If we've ever been rejected by our parents, our friends, we carry that within us. And all those things that we carry within us lead to the simplest things triggering us. Even if someone says something that it doesn't even mean anything, it's not even something bad, because of all those meanings, the false meanings we created within ourselves, we get triggered, and we show reaction. And it really affects relationships. It affects relationships with your spouse, with your friends, with your family. It affects even with your coworkers and classmates. It affects relationships at every level. And we can't comfortably have relationships with people because we reach a point where we start thinking, okay, I want to avoid anyone that triggers me or makes me angry, and I want to only be around people that make me feel the way I want to feel and make me feel satisfied, make me feel happy and approve of me. And after a while we realize, we can't separate ourselves from the whole world. We can't, once these things keep building. But really, none of those things are a tangible barrier. None of those things are anything that are physically holding us back from doing anything positive, but they're things they're false meanings that we give value to, and we let it rule over us, where we're not making a conscious decision anymore. It's just about how I feel. And it's the same thing that creates barriers between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we all have that fitrat, we all have that good within us. That, for example, Imam Khomeini says in his book Adab al-Salat that when you go to pray your daily prayer, it's supposed to take away all your worries. It's supposed to take away all your exhaustion from that day. It's supposed to heal you of everything. But how come we don't feel that way? How come when we go to pray, when we read the Quran, we don't have that connection that we're supposed to have, and we think, it's only the imams or only the scholars that are supposed to, that have that connection. I'm not at that level. But really, it's because of all these unhealed things and negativities that you're just storing within you, and you're blocking your ability to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah gave us all that fitrah to connect to Him. But we're the ones that we're choosing to stay in that pain. And this is a decision we make because it's something we're comfortable with. We've lived our life this way our entire life. This is how we identify, and we're afraid of change. Even if we think it's better, we don't want to let go of that negativity, and we keep it. And so that's something that we need to work on healing and working on removing those negativities. And there's a story from Shaheed Ibrahim Hadi that really stuck with me. He was the first Shaheed that I learned about. And it kind of made this concept clear to me, because it showed that it's not about making things personal. There's a greater responsibility. So it was a time of the war between Iran and Iraq, and they had just taken over certain land, and they had taken some captives. And imagine, like, the Iraqis had come and they had attacked Iran, and they made people really angry, and you're taking over our land, you're killing our people. People were angry about it. Of course, they weren't happy about people coming and invading their land. And so once they took these captives, some of the soldiers were really angry at them. They saw the Iraqi soldiers, and they started yelling at them. They started telling them, why are you doing this to us? And even sometimes hitting them. And Shaheed Ibrahim Hadi comes up to the Iranian soldiers and says, you have no right to do that. Apologize to the Iraqi soldiers right now. And he makes them apologize to the Iraqi soldiers, and he tells them that, this is the key point, when they are on that side of the land, they are the enemy because they are invading us, and we are defending ourselves when we're fighting them. But once they come to our side, they're a guest now. They're not our enemy, so we have to treat them like our guests. And that's when they had 2 cups of water, they gave one full one to the guest, and they divided the other one between all of them, because they treated the captive as a guest. It wasn't a personal problem. It was about fulfilling a responsibility. We shouldn't carry these negativities and personal problems within us. Allah wants us to have that pure heart. So we don't want to carry all those things. We want to love who Allah wants us to love, and we want to separate ourselves from who Allah wants us to separate ourselves from. And the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The day that your children and your wealth have no benefits other than qalb salim, your pure heart. And that's where we want to get to. And so the fourth issue that we face is that once we lead into our desires and we start identifying with external things, and what we lack is that internal strength and security, because that internal strength and security comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then we start to care about other people's opinions. We start to care about other people's opinions more than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us, and we become self-conscious. We lose our confidence, we lose our ability to move forward in life. And as you can see, these are all factors that play out in every aspect of our lives. It's not just like, our faith is not just for the masjid, it's for every aspect, whether it's your education, your career, your anything. We just want to refocus ourselves on what really matters. And so what is freedom? What does Islam define as freedom? And that is to be able to make a conscious decision. When you come across situations, be able to decide what I want to do now, not to be pulled in a certain direction because you've been following something your whole life. And the tests don't get easier, they get more difficult the further that we go. And if we are not prepared, if we don't prepare ourselves from the smallest things, we're not gonna pass the test. We're not gonna reach where we want to get. So we want to remove all these barriers that we spoke about, and we want to reach a state of freedom from all those internal things that are dragging us in a certain direction. We don't even realize it sometimes. And we want to gain a certain strength, like the ayah of the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبَّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. Those that say that Allah is my Lord, they gain strength, they become steadfast, and then they have no fear and they don't grieve because they have something to rely on. They have an infinite source of energy to rely on. And they know that, at the end of the day, it's all in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. It's not something that, we are not responsible for the results. We are not responsible for, we do what we are supposed to do. The rest is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hands. وَمَكَرُوا مَكْرَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And like we plan, Allah plans, and indeed Allah is the best of planners. And we have to trust that. Allah does not burden us with more than we can handle, and we move forward, inshallah. So how can we reach this freedom? What is the solution to removing all of these barriers between us and Allah, and how can we gain that strength within us for just implementing in every aspect of our lives? And so we're going to go back to the purpose of our creation, to understand that one missing link that connects everything together, that one pivotal point, that is where we're going to use our energy, and that's where we're going to focus, and it ties everything together. Because sometimes, we hear a lot of different things that we need to be doing. We hear all these lectures during Ramadan about all the things that we're not doing and we should be doing, and we get lost. There's no order in our life, so we don't know where to start. And when it's scattered, we fall off track because we don't understand how all these are connected. And so we're going to go to the ayah of the Quran, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. And this is an ayah that we've all heard many times. But what is it telling us? It's telling us that the only thing that defines a person, that gives you your identity, it gives you your direction, is whether you are a servant of Allah, whether you're an abd or you're not an abd. Are you following your nafs, or are you an abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? that's the only thing, because that's the only lasting thing. Other things that you want to identify with, of course, they can be a tool. Your education, your career, your relationship with your family, anything. They can all be a tool for getting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they are not what you should identify as, or what should identify you. And it's the moment that we submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is infinite, that we become free of our nafs. We gain control. It gives us willpower. It gives us direction. We're not constantly lost thinking about, where am I going? What's important to me? You're not constantly worried about the result. You know that I'm moving towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's my path. I know that's where I'm going. And the beautiful point is that the world calls to us to take away from us, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls to us to give to us. And He's always giving. He's always giving us strength. He's always giving us so many blessings. The Arhamar Rahimin. And He's telling us He created us for something greater. We're not limited to the material objects or anything limited. And to be able to submit to Allah and obey Him, we first need to understand what that means. So one thing that I want to start with is the difference between ibadah and ubudiyah. Sometimes we use those terms interchangeably, but actually the point is that ibadah can become a barrier to our ubudiyah. So what are they? Ibadah is anything such as prayer, fasting, reading the Quran. That's ibadah. And it still comes with the right intention and ikhlas. You need to perform those acts. But ubudiyah is greater than that. Ubudiyah, obedience, servitude is greater than that. Because sometimes, for example, a person can be sitting and praying all day. They can be reciting Quran all day long. But that's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. Is that what He told us to do? No. So that's not servitude, because He didn't ask us to do that. And that's actually becoming a barrier to our worship and our ubudiyat. Or, for example, this is an example we've all heard, if it's the time of prayer and your parent calls you and they need you, should you continue your ibadah? Or should you be an abd and go help them? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the guidelines. He tells us what He wants from us. And so there are 3 criteria for ubudiyah that I'm going to go through. The first is intention. Your intention needs to be purely for God. And this is what elevates the smallest of actions. It elevates even something that you might not even think is important, but when you do it purely for Allah, that's so great in His eyes. He says, this is my servant and he's doing it for me, and He sees that. And to recognize that, doing things for others, you can't gain anything from that. Like right now I'm sitting here talking, I have to ask myself, am I doing this for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or am I doing this for people? Am I going to get anything from them? On the Day of Judgment, Allah's going to tell me, go get your reward from them. If you did it for them, go get it from them. And so that's a number one thing, our intention. The second thing is sunnah. So intention is not the only thing. We cannot do whatever we want with the right intention and say, I'm doing this for God, because He tells us what we should be doing. He gives us direction through the Prophet and Imams. He tells us, this is how I want you to worship me. So, and we need to realize that, we need to follow that. We can't pick and choose in our faith. We can't be like, I'm going to do this because I want to do it, and I'm doing it only for God. But that's not something that God asks you to do. So where are you getting that from? Why are you doing it? And the third one, which is the most important, that separates ibadah from ubudiyah, is priority. We need to learn what Allah prioritizes, and we need to learn how to prioritize in our lives. something can be a priority today and something else can be a priority tomorrow. Only one thing is a priority at every time point. And so for example, like the shuhada, sometimes when they were with their families, they were the best with their families. They took care of them. They did so much in the home. They created such a loving atmosphere, such good relationships. And that was of utmost importance at a certain point. But then once the responsibility changed, they had to leave what they loved. Or Imam Hussein, who had to sacrifice his family. So the responsibility changes. And we have to see at every time point, what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us? And what is our responsibility right now? It's not the same all the time. And right now, one thing that I want to emphasize is that, especially living in the secular world, we all know that the mass media is trying to keep us in a bubble of just being worried about ourselves and worried about what's going to happen in our lives, with our kids, with our families, or just our careers, and not be aware of what's going on around us. But today, it's such a great responsibility to be awake and be aware of what's happening in the world around you. And especially since in 2 days, inshallah, on Friday, it's a day of Quds, which is coming up, and it highlights the number one issue in the Muslim world today, the issue of Palestine. But how many people still don't even know about it? How many people, if you go in society, they still don't know what is happening? And what is the media telling us about what's happening? Such a distorted view of what's happening, but it's our responsibility to understand what's happening and understand all the injustices in the world, where they are coming from, what is the root, and to raise awareness and say, we're not going to stay in our bubble. We're not going to stay and do what you tell us to do or believe this media or this false media. And that's such a great responsibility today and so after all this, we realize that, we can't live a life just going along with our desires. We can't just follow them because they're going to drag us into something that we don't, or somewhere that we don't want to go. And so how do we do it? How do we gain control over ourselves? So number one, when desires are natural, so we all have certain desires. The key is not to suppress it or express it. We don't want to do either one, because when you suppress it, it's going to come out even greater at a certain point. You keep suppressing. For example, I'm still fasting. All day I'm telling myself, I can't eat. And then suddenly, because I've suppressed it for so long, then at iftar time, oh my God, I want to eat everything. And it comes out like it becomes excessive. And when we express it, of course, that's not always great either. So what we should do is experience it. When we come across a desire, we think to ourselves, okay, I see you there. Like, okay, I'm feeling hungry right now. And we become aware of it, and we watch what's happening. And then we make the conscious decision of whether we want to follow it or we don't want to follow it. That's really important, to take that control and not let some emotion or sudden thing kind of take over and make the decision for us. And the last point that I want to make is that when we want to move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to move with Allah towards Allah. There's no other way. Or else we're just gonna, whatever path we take without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're gonna just have a big ego and think that, I'm so great, I'm such a great individual, I did this all by myself. And that's not what we want. We need to pray to Him and ask for His help, and that it's very heartwarming that we can do that, because we realize how weak we are and that we're not able to do anything ourselves or by ourselves. We can we know that we can reach out to such a great being that can give us so much and has already given us so much, just looking at everything that we have in our lives. And that's where we can actually understand the prayers that we make when we read the Quran. The Prophet said, when one of you would like to converse with your Lord, when you want to talk to your Lord, read the Quran. Or what Imam Sajjad said, he says, nurture me through your favor and better me through your generosity. And you are a substitute for everything lost and a correction for everything corrupted. You know, Allah is someone, He cures us of everything. He corrects everything that we might have done wrong, or is a substitute for any lack that we have inside us. Like, that energy is supposed to come from inside of us, that fitrat and that connection with God, and we're supposed to only share that positivity and with others. And no matter however anyone treats us, you know, we treat them well. And, you know, like, we hear a lot of stories of the Prophet and the Imams that people treated them terribly and they responded very well with their akhlaq, and they changed people that way. It's not because they had to try so hard to like act like, oh, I like you, but they got that source of energy to be able to do that from the most gracious, the most merciful, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is the result of all this? When we submit, we have a sense of security. We don't feel threatened, because the world changes. Our lives change right now. We're all quarantined. And who thought this coronavirus would come? A lot of things change in our life. But when we rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't feel threatened one bit. We let things change. We embrace them. And we let Allah be the planner. We let Him take control. We make our own plans. But at the end of the day, whatever happens, we're feeling content. We're okay, because we know that He's got our back and that He knows what He's doing. And it's important to live our life in our ubudiyat, and starting from the smallest things, becoming aware, because we need to prepare ourselves to be the soldiers of Imam Mahdi. And to do that and to be given greater responsibilities, we need to tackle smaller ones right now, because we're going to be given greater responsibilities, inshallah, and we need to be able to handle it. And I wanted to end on this ayah that always warms my heart when I feel like, you know, where am I going? It explains what Prophet Musa says. It says, وَقَالَ إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. He says, I'm going towards my Lord and He will guide me. That's it. I'm going towards Him and He'll guide me. I have nothing to worry about. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us on this journey, to shine light on this path, to give us insights, to give us yaqeen and sincerity on our actions, inshallah. Thank you. And iltamas dua to everyone.
Thank you so much, Sister Alla. It was a great presentation. I'm sure we all learned a lot. Before I get to the question and answer segment, I want to apologize on behalf of mohebban-e-fatemeh. There have been some distractions in tonight's program in the Zoom call. So I just want to go over the rules one more time. So please do not use the chat for anything except asking questions relevant to the speaker. It's really distracting and it is not appropriate for what we're doing tonight. And also keep yourself muted at all times. Keep your video off at all times unless you're the speaker. So once again, I apologize for the distractions that we were facing tonight. As for the questions, so we received quite a few. The first one is from Brother Abbas. He asks, what are some practical methods to break bad habits?
Again, I am not a scholar, but I will kind of try to explain how I view it. Sorry, one second. Sorry, my mic was echoing. So in terms of removing bad habits, I think one of the important things is to just become aware of it and start to, it's definitely a process. It doesn't happen overnight, but it kind of goes into what Imam Khomeini explains as musharata, muraqabah, and muhasabah. So basically, you have to first know what you are fighting. You have to know what the problem is, recognize it, because it becomes much easier to fight something once you recognize it. And you become determined to actually create a solution for it, because that's also really important. And then you have to first, you make a deal with God. You know, I made the decision. It's musharata. I made the decision to do this or put away this bad habit. And then muraqabah. So during the day, you are careful of your actions. You watch it. And muhasabah is at the night, and you kind of review your actions and see, you know, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better? Kind of like raises awareness again. So that's how I would approach it. And kind of also just, I think a lot of just trying to strengthen your willpower is really important, in that it's not always about focusing on one bad habit and removing it, but it's also fixing other aspects of your life and getting them in order to increase your willpower to be able to do that. I hope that it was helpful.
Thank you. The second question is from Brother Ali. He asks, what are ways that I can remove distractions during my salat and stop myself from thinking about other things?
Again, I can only say what has helped me, and I can say two things. One is reading, kind of thinking in your mind the meaning of what you're reciting, and that will kind of focus you on what you're saying to Allah, and basically also understand the depth of what you're saying. So whether it's really understand the meaning of the words that you recite in salats, and even maybe even read the tafsir, so you connect to what you're reciting and it's not just passive. And the second one is to prepare for salat and go in with the mentality that, you know, first of all, like a few minutes before, like prepare, even if you can't, but just be prepared for it, and go to it with the mentality that, you know, this is going to be I'm going to Allah to speak with him and heal myself and kind of relieve myself of all these pains. And it's kind of an intimate relationship with God. But yeah, that's what I would say that has helped me, but I can't say that I'm the perfect person to ask.
That's good. And then next question, Brother Hussein, he says, thank you for the sincere reflection, sister. Speaking of removing barriers, we all get stuck when it comes to consistency. How do we even try again when we fail over and over?
So that is something we all definitely deal with, and sort of where repentance comes into play. And Allah's doors are always open, and he always says, like, ad'uni astajib lakum, like, call upon me and I'll respond to you. Inni rabbi qareebun mujib, indeed I am near and responsive. And so we need to remind us of, you know, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, and we repent to him and we ask for his help. And those moments that we trip up, it reminds us of how small we are and how weak we are, and how we can rely on Allah. And when we Allah Panahian says that we shouldn't have confidence in ourselves, but we should have confidence in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once we understand that Allah is the one giving us the strength, then we can move forward. It's not about building that confidence in our own abilities and like solely our abilities. You know, it's connected to Allah.
Okay, next question from Sister Zahra. This happiness and contentment, or tawakkul, is great, but what can I do to have this tawakkul? I remove my hijab because I am afraid of repercussions. How do I gain this tawakkul that everything will be okay?
Again, it's not a sudden thing that happens. It takes time, but when you need to first understand, one, why do I even need to obey God? For example, like hijab, it's a ruling that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made wajib on us. And so why has he done that? And disobeying him, what does that result in? Some points I mentioned that are repercussions of disobeying him. We need to consider those. And we need to also just understand that it's a process. It's not something that comes overnight to suddenly have so much strength. But also something that's important is that yaqeen and that strength, that like clarity comes after you act upon it. So a lot of people wait for that clarity and that certainty to come to them and then do an action. Like, I'm not gonna pray until God makes me certain and gives that feeling inside of me that, when I pray, I'm gonna like go to cloud 9 and connect with him on another level. But that's not how it works. You first need to act upon it and say, God, I'm doing this for you, and then that will come with it.
Great. And then Brother Jaffer asks, what books do you recommend for this topic of tawakkul, hope, and existential happiness?
Books. A lot of the books I read are in Farsi, so it depends on whether you recite, you can read Farsi or not, but in terms of English books, I would say 40 Hadith is a great book, especially the first chapter where Imam Khomeini discussed jihad with the nafs. Ayatollah Muhammad Ali Shomali also has a lot of great books on self-development and self-knowledge. But yeah, those are the two English sources that I would recommend.
And then we have an unnamed audience member who asks, what is the role of community in helping to promote our obedience towards Allah?
So it's kind of a really broad question. I'm not really sure what's specifically intended, but what I can say is that balance is really important in life, and we have a responsibility not only towards ourselves, but our family, our friends, our community, our ummah, our world, the world. We have a responsibility. So I think the greatest thing is thinking about what it is that you can do. What do I have to offer, and how you can help. But a lot of these things are not things that I can give a solid answer, because it's not one answer for everyone. It's very personalized. So every person needs to, what I want to basically get is, we all need to reflect and see what that path is for us, and also ask Allah to show us, ask him to show us what it is that is our responsibilities, and build that relationship.
Great. And our final question from Brother Jaffer: how do you set the checks and balances in your life to make the conscious decision to not let emotion take over the decision-making process and do the right thing? Are there any steps or physical things we can do?
So I think that the one thing that I also mentioned in the lecture was to become aware of it, to become aware of our emotions, and not just push them off. Like suddenly, let's say I feel angry. I accept my anger. I told my nafs, like, okay, nafs, you're doing your job. You're expressing anger. Sometimes anger is good. And then you think to yourself, you allow yourself to think, but is this the time to express this anger, or is it not? And sometimes you need to separate yourselves from it and give yourself some time. think about it. But basically, be a bystander and look at your life from the outside. Don't get caught up in it. Don't identify. We all have emotions, but don't identify with those emotions.
Okay, that's all for the questions. Thank you again so much, Sister Alla. I know, alhamdulillah, we all truly enjoyed and benefited from the presentation. And as you mentioned, having tawakkul is a fundamental component of avoiding this negativity, and it is something that we can all utilize in these nights of Ramadan to focus on ourselves on both a practical and metaphysical level. Inshallah, we can all work on our willpower during these final nights and truly utilize what you have said in order to become the best version of ourselves. So once again, I want to thank Sister Alla for her great presentation. So at this point, we're going to transition into the Kahoot game. At the end, there's going to be a $20 cash prize for the winning team. So if the Kahoot team could share the presentation so we can get started. And while you guys are joining the Kahoot game, I'm going to recap our announcements for the upcoming nights very quickly. So again, tomorrow night from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at IEC, we have our drive-thru iftar. So please come by. You're gonna get your food again with contactless service. You know, we're going through the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're trying to keep our social distancing and everything, and still be able to make that community effort. So you can get 2 free meals per car, and if you need more, you can purchase more. It's up to you. And then also Eid al-Fitr, again, tentatively set to Sunday. We will have a virtual Eid al-Fitr Salat from 8 to 9 a.m. Please do not show up to the center. We're not going to be holding it in person. There is also going to be a drive-through Halim and Eid celebration, very small. You pick up your Halim from 9 to 10:30 a.m. at IEC. We will be giving gifts and goodie bags to children. Also, mark your calendars for Friday night. Brother Kazim Tariq from Miami will be speaking on forms of sacrifice. And then Saturday night, we'll have a panel Q&A, as I mentioned, with 4 sisters who are reverts. And they're going to tell us about their journey and their path to where they, from where they started and where they are now. We also will have a Kahoot game on Saturday after their Q&A and their panel, and that will also have a cash prize. Also, if you haven't already, follow Mohebban Youth and IEC on Instagram. So that would be at Mohebban Youth and at IEC Youth on Instagram. We keep our event information over there. We also have other sorts of ways you guys can connect to us. And we keep you guys updated on what we do throughout our different programs and different upcoming events. And so that's all for now. I'm going to ask everybody to stay muted during the Kahoot game unless you are, well, I don't think we need, you guys need to answer out loud or anything. So there's not going to be any questions or anything. Everything's pretty straightforward. So keep yourselves muted. Just respond using your phones or laptops or whatever you're using. We want to avoid any sort of distractions or any extra commotion that's not necessary. So our first question is true or false? Ubudiyya and ibadah are synonymous terms. True or false? It was false. So congratulations to the first 13, and Team Mona is in the lead. What are the 3 criteria for ubudiyya? So we have intention, sunnah, and priority. Intention, ikhlas, and humility. Ikhlas, clarity and humility. Or intention, clarity, and direction. And the correct answer is intention, sunnah, and priority. And Team Hamid takes the lead. Congratulations. Next question. What is the reason which Allah mentions in Surah Dariyat as the purpose for creating mankind? Is it to test mankind, reach their potential, do good in the world, or worship Allah? Worship Allah. Looks like this one was a fairly easy question, and Team Hamid stays in the lead. The Prophet said that when one would like to converse with Allah, he should perform prayers, write to him, read the Quran, or just speak with him. Read the Quran. We're getting quick movement with teams moving up and down fast, but still Team Hamid stays in the lead. What does it mean when a surah is referred to as Mekki? Was it revealed in Mecca, first recited in Mecca, only Allah knows, or it was transcribed in Mecca? Perfect, we got 20 out of 20, so it was revealed in Mecca. That's the correct answer. True or false? All Mekki surahs are shorter than Madani surahs. False. How many stories are in Surah Kahf, the chapter of the cave? 1, 2, 3, or 4? Correct answer is 4. Team Hamid is taking a big lead. Team Zaki Hassan is coming in second place. Very close to third place. In the story of Prophet Musa and Khidr damaged a blank in order to help the family who owned it. Was it a house, a boat or ship, a cow, or a camel? Correct answer is a boat or ship. In Surah Luqman, what is loud talking or yelling compared to? The voice of shaitan, the mooing of a cow, the horn of Israfil, or the braying of a donkey? The braying of a donkey. Team Hamid's commanding lead is getting wider and wider, but Team Sunny's up for the challenge. Next question. How many surahs are there in Juz Amma, the 30th Juz? 30, 33, 37, or 40? Correct answer is 37. Looks like Team Sunny's catching up. How many full surahs are there in the first juz of the Quran? 1, 0, 2, or 3? Correct answer is 1. It's Surah Fatiha. Only some of Surah Baqarah is in the first juz. Team Zaki Hassan is coming up to take over Team Hamid. Let's see, can they do it? Which of the following is one of the names or titles given to Surah Al-Hamd? The Bride of the Quran, the 7 oft repeated, Al-Musabbihat, or Al-Imtihan? The 7 oft repeated. And Team Halim has the highest answer streak of 8. Can they keep it up and take first place? According to Shia scholars, heaven and hell have already been created, but in a different dimension. Is that true or false? That is true. And Team Zaki Hassan has cut the lead to less than 1,000. Can they push and take first place? How many of the birthdays of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are in Ramadan? None, 1, 2, or 3? Just 1. Team Hamid remains in the lead. True or false? Salatul Eid is currently wajib for the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. It is false. Next question. How many time zones are there in the world? 6, 24, 8, or 12? Correct answer is 24. And Team Sunny is back in the running. What is a Japanese national animal? The red panda, the snow monkey, the cat, or the red-crowned crane? It is the snow monkey. And with that, Team Zaki Hassan takes first place. What does the www stand for on a website address bar in the URL? World Wide Web, Walter Warren Ward, World Weather Watch, or Wild Wild West? It is the World Wide Web. And that was a perfect one as well. And Team A is getting up here. How many ribs are in the human body? 16, 19, 24, or 29? You can attempt to count it off the skeleton or yourself. The correct answer is 24. And Team A is now in second place. Which two planets in our solar system are known as ice giants? Neptune and Uranus, Neptune and Jupiter, Pluto and Jupiter, or Uranus and Pluto? It is Neptune and Uranus. Unfortunately, Pluto is not really a giant planet. And 7 players have had a 3-answer win streak. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce that, to be honest, but it's the capital of which country? Germany, Hungary, Czech Republic, or Austria? Czech Republic. That's something new I learned today. And the race is close between first and fifth place. These next 3 questions can be it all. Steve Jobs is known for wearing a black button-down shirt, t-shirt, blazer, or turtleneck. The answer is turtleneck. And the race becomes ever so much closer for first place. What was the name of Harry Potter's pet owl? Luna, Hedwig, Dobby, or Fluffy? It is Hedwig. It looks like we got a lot of Harry Potter fans here. How many continents does Islamic relief work in? 1 out of 7, 3 out of 7, 5 out of 7, or all 7 continents? It is 5 out of the 7 continents. And our last question, how long do you think it took to put this Kahoot together? 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, or 6 hours? Answer is 2 hours. So thank you all for playing, and the final results show that we have in third place Team Maminu, in second place Team Zaki Hassan, and in first place winning our cash prize today is Team A. Congratulations, Team A. You can get on Instagram and DM our page at mohebban-e-fatemeh with your Venmo information to claim your prize. And with that, I want to thank you all for being here tonight and participating in tonight's program. Just a quick recap of what's to come. We're going to have a program tomorrow night with Brother Salimion, who's going to be doing the IC presentation. Again, Friday night will be Brother Kazim Tapi. Saturday night, we're going to have a panel with our four sisters who are reverts, along with a Kahoot game. And tentatively, Sunday, we're going to have Salatul Eid at 8 a.m. online virtually, and a drive-through Halim at Islamic Education Center from 9 to 10:30 a.m. Also, a reminder for tomorrow night, along with the presentation, we also have a drive-through iftar from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at IEC. So please come by. 2 free meals per car. You can purchase more if you want. And also make sure to follow us on social media on Instagram at mohebban-e-fatemeh and at IEC Youth to keep up to date with all of our programs and everything. We hope to see you all tomorrow and the subsequent nights for sure, and I hope you guys the best. Thank you, and assalamu alaikum.